Hello and welcome back to the X-Files Revisited. We are on to episode 2 of season 5, which is Redux II. Brian, tell us a little bit about this episode.
So, third part of a trilogy. Last time we had a trilogy, we had the awesomeness that was Anasazi, Blessingway, and Paperclip. I did put a poll out on one of the mini X-Files groups. I can't remember which one it was now, actually, but I put a poll out a while back asking what people's favourite mythology two-parter or three-parter was, and I literally listed. So I did it as a poll, and I did all of the two-parters just as I put them as an option, and the three-parters in there. Now, the Gethsemane and Redux trilogy came top.
Wow.
So when I put that poll out, and that featured every single one of the 2 and 3 parters, this one came out as top. So that should give you a little indication as to what a lot of people are thinking. But yeah, third part of a trilogy, mythology episode, big things, which we're about to get into. So do you care to hazard a guess as to where this sits?
I love this. So I'm sure last time you said that Redux was about 30 something.
Yeah, 29 it was.
29, okay. Yeah. I'm going to go for 18.
18. Right. I think you should have listened a little bit more to what I just said about that poll, because it actually comes in at number 7.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That's impressive.
That is very impressive. So yeah, we're talking top 10 material here. According to IMDb, this is one of the top 10 episodes of the show. So we will endeavour to discuss it with an eye to seeing whether or not that is in fact the case. But of course, it's all subjective, so take anything we say with a pinch of salt.
Of course.
Right, should we get into it?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so we kick off with Mulder coming to the hospital, because if you remember last episode, Scully was about to give her testimony, unleash the evidence against Skinner and whoever, and she started bleeding from her nose and she collapsed. So Mulder comes to the hospital, where he runs into the most unhelpful staff ever. And then Skinner is there, and the two of them get pissy with each other, and Mulder gets dragged away, and he's not allowed to see his partner.
Yeah, it's like one of those scenarios, like if you have it in real life, that when you're telling folk this is how people act, but they probably weren't really as bad as that, the doctor that just pure like, calm down. No, you can't see her. Like, everything's just antagonizing him. Even Skinner's just like, they're having that back and forth. But it's as openings go, I'd say it's really solid. Like really, really good. You get to see Mulder in a state of distress and upset, which will continue throughout this episode.
I think as well, it's it differs to a lot of two-part openings in the sense that it just rolls straight into the action as from where we left it last episode. Like if you look at most two-parters, even the second part will kind of start with a teaser that, like, rather than getting straight into where we left off last week, we have this teaser which will come into it later. And it often feels a little bit out of place. Whereas this, it's just like you could literally go from last week's episode straight into this, and you wouldn't really know where the break was. You wouldn't really know where did the credits go in that, because it's just gone straight from one scene to another. And I think that helps from the get-go to just keep the pace going, rather than having that.
All the better for it, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
And I do like David Duchovny's performance in this, because we've all been in this situation where you're trying to get somebody to acknowledge you as a human being and actually talk to you with some urgency, and they're all just giving these blank stares as if he's got a knob on his head or something, and you're just like, at least answer the guy. He's just asked you a question and you're staring blankly as if it's just
I
passed
think
over your head.
it's like one of those situations where somebody will say calm down, which is pretty much the worst thing you can say to anybody that's like wound up. Just like calm down. Like you just get angry at that.
Yeah, I had a moment like that just recently, actually. I told someone to chill out. I just said, I think you need to chill out, mate. And it just escalated into something it shouldn't have done. So, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So from there, Mulder is brought in to see Blevins, Section Chief Blevins, who tries to get him to explain himself. Mulder gives them nothing. So this is what I was talking about last episode, where we have this stark contrast between Scully and Mulder, in which Scully is always torn between her loyalty to a partner and the willingness to go so far for his sake, and on the flip side of that, this duty, this sense of duty, where Mulder is never really concerned about his duty to his job, his duty to the higher ups of where he works. His only duty is to the truth, and if that means not saying a single word or giving anything away, not showing any cards to his very superiors, then that's what he's prepared to do, and it just doesn't bother him one iota, or if it does, it certainly doesn't show.
No, I do like it. I think it's pretty fun as well. He's almost like that kind of aggressively belligerent, just are we done? Just again, just letting these guys know it's almost like disrespectful as well, but then Mulder's got other things in his plate. Like, we know there's a mole, and why would he want to share any information with anybody that could possibly be that mole?
So Skinner catches him in the hallway, tells him he was protecting Mulder by withholding evidence about the man he shot in the face. He asks why Scully lies, and Mulder tells him someone in the FBI gave her cancer, but he doesn't know who. So this is the point really where Mulder's starting to see some sense towards Skinner, I think. The cogs are turning. It's like, hang on, could it really be Skinner who's against us, given everything we've been through and everything I've seen him do? Although there is still a sense of unease there, I think.
Although you do need to remember that Mulder is a profiler. That's his job, and he always goes with his hunches just in most things. So you can kind of see like a trust in his opinion.
Cancer Man meets up with the syndicate man, who I can never remember the name of again. He's very smug about Mulder. He kind of has this belief, unwavering faith that Mulder will somehow prove them all wrong. Because this guy's assuming that Mulder's dead, and Cancer Man's like, don't underestimate Agent Mulder. So the dude, the Godfather dude, syndicate man, says they are onto their mole in the FBI. So Cancer Man says they can use Scully to bring Mulder into the fold. But then what's his face? The syndicate guy kind of looks to this hitman dude, who just looks like Joe Bloggs. Kind of pass him in the street, would not know, which makes it entirely more believable. Just some random looking schmo who's like a gunman. So we know he's been dispatched to shoot someone. We don't know who.
And this
So-
guy has the most amount of patience I've ever seen in an entire human being. But we'll get to that, I suppose.
It takes a while, doesn't it?
It takes a while, yeah.
So Mulder goes to see Scully. She thinks Skinner is dirty, but Mulder says no. Wants to testify at the hearing, but Scully thinks they'll use the dead man to bury him. Tells him to lay it on her to give her death some meaning.
Yeah.
Then Mrs. Scully and Bill arrive. Good old Bill.
Yeah.
And Bill tells Mulder to leave the work outside and let her die with some dignity. And that's the point where you want to smack this guy.
This guy's so out of touch. Like Scully's obviously facing some harsh truths. She's stuck in bed. She knows what's coming. She wants a distraction. She's asking Mulder about the case and offering up information. I really like that she, in this moment where she's offering concern to Mulder as well. Worried about him and what's going to happen to him after the fact. But then the douchey brother is just he just looks like someone that needs a slap. Do you know what I mean? And then he opens his mouth and confirms that.
Yeah. The thing is, to me, it never makes sense to say that, okay, stop fighting for your life is a way to die. Yeah, is a way to die with dignity. How is that dying with dignity? Yeah. Surely fighting till the bitter end and not just lying down and taking it. Surely that is dying with dignity. Dying on your feet is better than dying on your back. Surely, in the dignity sweepstakes. So it feels to me like this guy has already accepted that his sister is dead, and he's just kind of
waiting,
counting the hours until the inevitable comes. And it's like, so what's she supposed to do? Just join you in that sullen place of doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, you can see him really giving her moral support by saying things like, "Just go towards the light. Just go now. Just close your eyes and slip away." He's not supportive at all.
No. He's thinking about the inheritance. It's now both sisters are going. I get all of the inheritance.
I get all the inheritance.
So, he's just really douchey. There's been times when he's said things and behaved in certain ways where I can kind of identify with what he's saying. If he doesn't really know Mulder, he only knows what Mulder's work has done to Scully. I can understand how that can create resentment. But just the way he talks here, I just want to slap him. Yeah. So Mulder goes to see Scully. Oh, sorry, I've read that bit. So this is the first part in which the gunman sets up. So basically, they're using this gunman setting up as scene breakers, really.
Yes.
So
it's almost because they set him up so early, they keep having to remind us that he's there.
Yeah.
they pretty much do. So you just go back to this guy just aiming at everybody.
Yeah.
Not yet. No.
He's just very slowly putting his silence on. So Cancer Man is at the hospital, and I love what Mulder says. So Mulder goes up to him, grabs hold of him, pushes him up against the wall. And he's like, I don't know. I don't think he does, actually. I think he just goes up, and he's really snidey, but he just says, "Please tell me you're here for chest pains." Oh, man. So, basically, Cancer Man has come to offer Mulder a deal. He says that he will give Mulder everything he wants, which is basically Scully's cure. So, so he goes. This is where he goes to the lone gunman, and if you remember, end of last episode, they looked inside the thing that Mulder had stolen from the government facility, the Pentagon, and they'd found just deionized water. Now it turns out when they give the little vial a rougher shake, a little chip comes out of it. Not too dissimilar, I would imagine, to the chip that was removed from Scully's neck. So Critchgow is brought before the FBI hearing, says his son has died. He tells them that while he technically was employed by the Department of Defense, part of his remuneration was paid by a congressional lobbying firm called Roush. So,
yeah, and just before we get to that, I genuinely feel for this guy in this moment.
Yes,
you know,
yeah,
it's such a heartbreaking little story as well, and just to think, like, mere hours after his son's death, he should be grieving with the family, and he's here having to answer questions.
Yeah. And he got into all this mess because of his son as well, and the hope that he would find a cure for him. But yeah. So, and the thing is, Mulder did get one of those vials out for his son.
Yeah.
But was obviously a little bit too late, especially when they thought it was just deionized water. So yeah. So that's an even bitter pill to swallow. But
yeah.
So Skinner jots down the name of that company, Roush. So he's gonna look it up. What gets me, when you like, I don't know about you, but when if somebody just told me it was called Roush, and if they didn't spell it out to me, I wouldn't have spelt it the way that Skinner spells it.
I mean, I would go for ROACH.
Yeah, that's how I would have spelt it. And it's like, can you imagine if
ROUCH?
So he spells it ROUSH.
No, I would never have done that.
So but I've seen that before in TV shows, where somebody says something and then the person just jots it down. And it's fine if it's like something simple, but when it's a specific name, like my go-to in my head, with if I hadn't have asked and if he hadn't have spelt it, I'd have put ROUCH.
Yeah. So
then I'd be Googling all these companies with ROUCH and coming up with dick,
nothing,
basically. Yeah. So I just think it's convenient sometimes in TV shows when people just happen to jot down the correct spelling when they're doing stuff. So we get another lovely scene with Bill Scully. Bill comes out of his sister's hospital room and has a little chat with Mulder. What?
Did we miss something? No.
No, not yet.
Is that not convincing Scully yet? No. Oh.
No, not yet. So Bill thinks Mulder is nuts for suggesting they put the chip into Scully. Scully says it's her choice and she wants to try it.
This is the scene. I thought you were talking about something else, but this is great. Again, Bill's just like, just go, Dana.
Yeah.
I know this is like, it's not going to harm you anymore, but just don't even try it. Just go. It's time.
Yeah. It's like when you've literally got nothing to lose by putting this thing in your body.
Yeah.
What's the harm?
Mm-hmm.
What's the harm? And if you even if all you get out of it is 2 more hours of hope before you die, like the guy just,
it's baffling.
Yeah, like this is his sister. It's like, you don't have to like Mulder. You can think what you want about Mulder in regards to where he's taking your sister in life. But if he's got something that 0.0000001% chance could work, you'd still take it.
Yep.
So, yeah. So we see the gunman finishing setting up.
Yep.
It takes a long time to set up that rifle, dude.
A long time.
So, and then we go back to the hospital. Again, like I say, that they're using this gunman to essentially just break up these scenes. We're having all these scenes together in the hospital, and he kind of needs to break them up a bit. So we go to Bill really laying into Mulder, telling him he's lost one sister already because of him and his crusade, and now he's losing another. Calls him a sorry son of a bitch and walks away. Whew. And just as Mulder is soaking all that lovely information in, Cancerman calls him to ask how the chip is doing. Mulder doesn't show a lot of trust, so Cancerman tells him he's set up a meeting that he hopes he will earn that trust.
Cancer Man is the type of person that you would never trust. Never. The amount of things that he has done just over the space of 4 seasons, like, I wouldn't trust him to look after a cactus. Like,
no. The thing is, we've all read... I mean, I'll leave that for a bit because we're not quite there, but primarily it's the Bill Scully thing. Just the way he rips into Mulder, and like, I would love to have had a scene at the end of this in which Mulder gets to give him a look. You know, the cure works and Mulder just gets to throw him a glance that's almost like a...
Yeah, I was waiting on what I call the nod, where they look at each other and one just goes...
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
simple nod.
Yeah, just like... But we don't get it. Which is fine. On one level, I appreciate, because it is more realistic. I don't think Bill Scully... I keep calling him Bill Mulder. I don't think Bill Scully will want to even be in the same space as him, especially now that it's worked. Because he just... This is not the kind of guy who's going to swallow his pride, I don't think.
No.
But yeah, anyway, back to the Cancerman thing. That meeting that he has set up just so happens to be with Samantha.
Yeah.
And as we know, Samantha, this iteration that we've seen before, wasn't really Samantha. So we know there are clones out there. We know that any woman that looks like this may not necessarily be Samantha.
Yeah. And it's all the way through this episode we have congressional meetings or people talking about cloning. You know, so it's there hammering home the kind of idea as well. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. So Scully asks her doctor if he's ever seen a miracle. He says no, but yeah, but no, but yeah. So basically, he says no, but then he kind of reasons in his mind that I guess some of the things I've seen you could describe as miracles. I just never really looked at it that way. Which again, you know, this whole scene for me is vitally important to this episode, particularly Scully's character, because it really does encompass the theme of what this whole trilogy of episodes has been about, which is that issue of faith. And I feel like it's in this moment where Scully is starting to fall back on her faith now, starting to return to the faith that perhaps she was losing. She's in a place now where there's almost nothing left. She's got no place left to turn.
I think it's the final stage of grief acceptance, isn't it? She's there, she's accepted it, and she's looking to lean on her strength. It's not her brother, so what else is there?
So Cancerman asks Mulder to come work for him in exchange for the whole truth.
Yeah.
Sure. Mulder says no. And the gunman doesn't pull the trigger. So this whole time in this conversation, gunman has had a bead on Mulder and Cancerman, and it's like, ooh, Who's going to shoot? Who's going to shoot? And then Mulder says no, and then the gunman just kind of packs down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I like the idea of the beautiful lies, you know, the temptation. You know, he's been reeled in, but I think Mulder, or I feel that he's more than smart enough to realise what Cancer Man's up to. You know, how often does everything that you want fall into your lap?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't happen.
No. So Scully apologises to her mum for abandoning her faith. She says she is doing everything she can, but is in fact not. She's not turned to her faith as a resort. So she basically, so what she's saying is that, you know, I'm fighting and I'm telling myself I'm doing everything I can, and actually I'm not, because one thing that I can do is seek God, is ask God. And for me, this is a real powerful moment. You know, as a person of faith, this is a character accepting the need to humble themselves before God, in order to receive salvation. So for me, obviously, that's a really big, powerful moment, and it's an aspect of the Scully character that I've always identified with, that I've always hooked onto. You know, they've played around with her faith before. They've presented the notion that somewhere in her she does have a faith, but it's this is really the breaking point of her accepting fully that actually, no, I am a believer, and I need to wrestle with that faith. I need to rest on it. I need it to help me through. And it's just for me, it's just always been the most interesting part of her character, seeing this woman who's a woman of science, but also a woman of faith, and how are those two things going to intersect now as the show goes on has always been of interest to me. So so the syndicate man sees Skinner on the TV at some hearing and believes he is gathering evidence.
This guy is so robotic. Like, I don't know if he's just he's so wooden, and I was truly shocked by his lack of teeth, Brian. It's the first time I've noticed it. Like, in this sequence, I just kind of noticed he's got one at the front, down the bottom, and that's it.
Really?
They're all there. You just see it down the bottom.
That's probably why he talks the way he does. He's probably really self-conscious. Where it's just, if I talk like this, then there's nothing anybody's going to see about it. But it just ends up meaning that all he ever plays is these like mob boss types.
Pretty much, yeah. Shocking. Truly shocking.
Yeah. It's incredibly dry, to say the least. Mulder has a cry at Scully's bedside.
Yeah.
I'm always impressed by the way that David Duchovny is able to cry without actually crying. He does that thing, you know, the silent cry, where you just go... But there's no tears and no actual, no sounds. It's just... But yeah, just let the composer kind of bring some score in, and it works. You know, it works. It's emotional, but yeah, it's great.
Just not for Mulder.
Well, Blevins calls Mulder into his office. He wants him to name Skinner as the shooter in order to save himself, thereby completely giving himself away. Oh, hang on. What's going on here? Sorry, I accidentally pressed the button.
Giving himself away to the viewer, to Mulder, to everyone. I mean, he should just have had a neon sign at that point.
Yeah.
it's a panic play. It's not you
Yeah.
don't expect it from someone who's been doing this covertly for such a long period of time.
Yeah. So Mulder tells Scully about Blevins, tells her he won't take the deal. Live the lie you have to believe in. We all have our faith, and mine is in the truth. So, again, bringing us back to that theme of faith. Doesn't necessarily have to be in a god, doesn't necessarily have to be in people. It could be an ideology or whatever. It's just we all put our faith in something or someone. And
Yeah.
it shows that kind of commonality between these two characters who so often are at opposite ends of the spectrum, and yet they meet in the middle because their faith ultimately ends up bringing them to the same place in search of the truth. So she asks why bother telling her if he was already set on what he was going to do. And he says, because I knew you'd talk me out of it if I was making a mistake. And, again, showing the trust that he has there for his partner and how much he relies on her to keep him straight. And it's at that point that Father McHugh enters the room. Obviously, going way back to Gethsemane, we had Scully kind of essentially running from Father McHugh and just saying, no. And now she's actually called him in. She's asked for him to come. She's come to a place of acceptance. And for me, it's a real nice character journey. It's a really nice, solid character arc from where we found her at the start of Gethsemane to where we find her now. Something in her has changed. And that's brilliant writing for me. So we go to the FBI hearing, and Mulder, in a rather dramatic fashion, names Blevins, while Cancer Man is shot and killed.
Yeah. It's nicely intercut, this section, because I love that kind of sequence where they're kind of badgering Mulder.
Yeah.
Give us the truth. Give us the truth. And,
you can't handle the truth.
Yeah, it's that kind of moment, so it's great. And at no point do you think Smoking Man is dead. Well, no. There's one point I did, but we'll get to that in the next sequence.
Yeah, I do remember when I first saw it, very first time, I did think, wow, they've killed Cancer Man. They've gone and done it.
As it happens, I was like, he's fine. He's not fine, but he'll be back. But next sequence, we'll get to that.
Yeah. So Skinner talks to Mulder it is worth noting that when Cancer Man was killed, when he was shot, he pulls the photograph towards him of little Mulder and little little Fox and little Samantha. So again, it's that thing that is one of them his kid? Are both of them his kid? It's
interesting.
Yeah.
So Skinner is talking to Mulder, and this is what I'm talking about. He's like, cigarette smoking man is dead. He's been shot, and you're like, oh, so he is dead. And then just out of nowhere, he's like, I mean, there wasn't a body, but there was a lot of blood. Oh my god.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do remember when I first watched this way back when, it was a big moment. It's like, oh wow, they've killed the lead villain. And you kind of left in a bit of shock. And then when Skinner drops that bomb, and he's dead, you're just going through this thing in your head where you're like, wow, who's going to be the main big bad from now? And like in an instant, I'm thinking, is it going to be Krychek? You've got well manicured man. Is he going to take over the syndicate? And then as you're thinking all this through in your head, boom. I mean, no body was found. It's like, oh, get off.
You're like, this is the FBI, where evidence isn't necessary. We'll just assume
Yeah,
there was a lot of blood.
he says nobody could have survived with that amount of blood loss. It's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. So, yeah, says Cancerman is supposedly dead, nobody found. Asks how Mulder knew about Blevins. Mulder says he just guessed. Blevins was on payroll for a company named Roush. Mulder tells Skinner that Scully's cancer has gone into remission. He goes in to see her while Mulder has a little cry. Skinner goes in to see her while Mulder has a little cry. The question is, did the chip that was put in her neck save her? Or did her faith save her? And that's what I love. And you don't have to answer that because it's a trick. it's a trick question because I think it's deliberately left open for your interpretation.
I like this sequence where Skinner walks into the room and he's kind of there with Douchey Bill and the rest of them. And Scully, who's been rather derogatory towards Skinner all episode, just kind of, he gets the nod.
Yeah.
But you feel like they're all kind of in there, and she doesn't want to really be with all of them. Mulder's outside, and that's where the connection really is.
Yeah. I do like the look she gives Skinner, but I wish we'd had something similar from I guess two of those looks right within the space of like 2 minutes of each other would have been a bit much, but anyway, that's it. I do love how it ends on that question of well what saved her? Was it the chip or was it her faith? Because we're told like prior to that the chip doesn't seem to be working, it doesn't seem to be doing anything, and then that's when she goes to her faith, and it's like, well, maybe the chip was just takes its time, maybe it's got to kick in, whatever, we don't know, but I do like that, because that's the thing X-Files always explores really well, that the dichotomy of science versus faith, and can are the two diametrically opposed, or can they meet somewhere in the middle, or what? And I think that's a beautiful moment, beautiful way of dealing with it. So yeah, there you go. That's Redux Part 2. Care to give me your wrap-up thoughts and your score?
Yeah, I think it's very hard when you get to multiple part episodes, because you do kind of look at them as a whole, and sometimes you get a really good start and then a falls flat in the conclusion. This time we've got 2 episodes that we start off really good, second one's great, and thankfully this episode lands everything that's been built up. It ties it all off in a really neat bow. I can't really fault it, although there's little nibbles here and there. It's about as perfect an episode as you can get, especially with everything that's came before it. It just nails the landing. I won't go on because I'll let you talk about it a little bit, but for me, 5 out of 5, it's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Just 5 out of 5. Just it's a perfect conclusion to a story that's been so well handled. Like you say, they do drop the ball quite a lot. So they do great setup and that, and you're like, oh, I really want to see where this goes. And they set up themes that almost kind of get dropped, or half-assedly kind of concluded, where you kind of like, whereas this, it feels like it's a very clearly thought out arc for both Mulder and Scully, with regards to how their belief systems are like this, and over the course of this 3-parter, they've gone like this, and it's like, it's brilliantly done, and it's hard to argue against that poll that I put out on that Facebook group. Now, I still think, for me, Piper Maru and Apocrypha was my favourite of the 2-parter, 3-parters. but then I do have a bit of a soft spot for Krychek episodes.
Yeah.
He's my favourite villain in the show, but that was a really solid Scully like two-parter as well. So yeah.
Yeah, so we've had 2 amazing episodes. Now tell me about episode 3, Unusual Suspects.
Bit of a fan favourite.
Oh, right. Okay.
Now, I know you're a big fan of The Usual Suspects.
Yep.
So this is essentially Vince Gilligan doing sort of a version of The Usual Suspects, but with the lone gunman.
Oh, I'm so...
And to cap it off, it's also set before the show began.
Ooh.
So it actually shows you how the lone gunman came together and how they met Mulder. So,
oh, nice. You've intrigued me a lot there. I'm looking forward to this one. That should be interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for watching or listening to our episode. We appreciate any likes or reviews that you have for us. Don't forget to join us next week where we talk about the Unusual Suspects. I, for one, can't wait. So we'll see you there on the X-Files Revisited.